it's so easy for me to say you have to have self-worth and do this because I'm on the other end of the spectrum now,
Hmm.
right? And at the same time, when that happens, we're human beings. We make mistakes because it's in our mistakes that's when we really learn and that's when we grow. And sometimes it is, as contradicting as this sounds, it is okay to also lose yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Totally okay to lose yourself again. And what I would say to people that's listening to this is once you lose yourself, you have to remember to go back.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by the one and only Crazy Ant Media. This week, we'll be deep diving into the topic of toxic workplace environments and how it can impact our mental health. Many of us spend a significant amount of time at work and at a work toxicness that is going on that has to do with, it deals with several consequences that could affect your overall well-being. Today, we're going to explore different types of toxic workplace environments that employees may experience and try to micromanage, such as like bullying, harassment, and discrimination. Our guest speaker and just overall great person this week is a confidence and manifestation coach, Hergie Estoque, who will share her insights on the various ways that a toxic work environment can negatively impact mental health, including stress, anxiety, depression, and burnout. So we're super excited to have you on today. It's going to be such a great freaking conversation because there is so many people out there who do have just all of these types of stories where they feel like they're being misused or misguided in the workplace environment, and how that like bleeds into different aspects of your life, whether that be your home life or you necessarily don't go out as much because you're so worn out from workplace environment. So we're just super excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my goodness, of course. And yeah, like Logan said, I mean, I think all of us have been there, or we've known somebody that's been there, where their life is miserable. They hate their job. They hate to get up and go every day. They don't want to be there. And we hear about it. We have to hear about how much they hate their job or how much they don't like this or that. And it definitely takes a toll. I know that we come from a broadcast journalism and a broadcast media background. And there was a point where our television station, the environment got very nasty and very ugly. There was a shift in management and a buyout, and the turnover became rapid, and longtime people were leaving, and there was the whole culture started to become a shift and change where leadership was not respected. He didn't respect the people, and it just got real ugly real fast. And so one of the things that we kind of dealt with was there was this issue with being told how bad you were without ever hearing what you do right. Right? Here's
Yeah.
everything you did wrong, and never getting that encouragement of, but you did this really well. And the degradation of the people and the morale, because they started to believe that after so long of hearing that you're bad, you're no good, you're not worthy, you start to believe that. And I feel like then the next person starts to feel that, and the next person starts to feel that. So it's crazy how quickly that can happen, right?
Yeah. 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 So I really love this topic because it doesn't only just apply at work, and it apply everywhere, your friends, your family. And it's so important to just be so kind to one another because you don't really understand what people are going through. People are going through so many different problems, especially to what's going on in our society in America. We just experienced pandemic, and that affected us financially. I would say like most of Americans affected us financially. So that added so much more stress. We lost a lot of family members. I mean, I lost my aunt and my grandma
Right.
during pandemic, so that affected my mental health. Um, but I'm strong, so I really encourage everybody to seek healing. And in terms of workplace, it is so, if you're a boss, if you're a leader, it is so important to check in if someone is not performing, if someone is not performing at their highest. Instead of, you did this wrong, you did this, you did not perform here, why not check in of, hey, I see that you are falling behind
Hmm.
in one of our due tasks, or whatever you want to call it. Are you doing okay? So that on its own, are you doing okay, will allow somebody to open up to you. That on its own will allow somebody to open up to you. And when somebody opens up to you as a leader, as a boss, if you're listening to this, now that allows you to, okay, maybe this person actually needs a break. Like, being
Yeah.
easier on that person and making sure that that person is taken care of, that you show care and respect for that person. And instantly, believe it or not, that person will perform at that person at her best, or at his best.
Agreed.
Because we're human beings, like, we like to know that we care for each other. We're not robots where we just have to perform tasks 24/7, and you just need to get the job done. That's what
Yeah.
I truly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, you get that, that sense of being seen. Because I feel like there's a lot of times where people and workers feel like they are not seen. They have all of this other stuff that is going on in their personal life, and I know they always say, leave your home life at home and leave your work life at work, but it's never that easy. And it can be very difficult to try to separate, because just when you get home, you're trying to decompress, but all you can think about is everything that happened at work. Or like if you get into an argument with a significant other and you go to work, all you're really thinking about is how to fix that argument with the home life. So, I mean, it's all of these different things to try to, balance, but specifically being seen, like you said, for someone who, yeah, recognize who's in a leadership position, to see like someone who thoroughly does a good job and is just not in the right headspace. You can tell they're a little bit out of it. Just to be like, "Hey, what's going on? Do you need to talk? Like, can we step back from the situation and like just have a one-on-one conversation to where nobody else is around, so that you can start to bridge that gap and to just show that you're seen." Because like you said, we're not just material things. Like, I liking it to a like a washing machine or a dishwasher. Like,
Yeah.
we're not material items that are put here to do one particular thing. We're so much more layered than that. So to be shown that other people can see those layers is very
Yeah.
important.
Well, and
Yeah.
I like what you said too, because say it is an employee that consistently performs and it always does a great job, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden is not, right?
Yeah.
It's critical. It not only does it show that your boss is paying attention, right? But it's critical to know why, because people that normally perform on a level like that don't just not all of a sudden. There's got to be a reason why they've changed so drastically. And to recognize that, I think that's a great point, because I think so many times people just sweep it under the rug. They go, "Oh, such and such is having a bad day." Or or he's maybe Sally's this or that, and instead of confronting and asking what the problem is, how can you help, they say you got to do better. You're doing this without ever asking, why are you having a bad day? What is going on? So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I've been in places where they don't care. They don't care what's going on in your real life, and if it's bothering you at work, too bad. You need to do this or you need to do that, and that's terrifying. That we're at
Yeah.
a place where people treat you like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to share a little bit of story, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
When my aunt and my grandma passed away back in 2020, I was part of a leadership course where I had to really, really perform. I had to be on top of my A game. And there's just something that I just couldn't help myself but not perform. I just couldn't help it. And I spoke to the person that is in charge, the leader in that field, and I did not feel that I was supported. They said that I still got to show up in life and I still got to perform no matter what it is that I'm dealing with, and at the same time deal with it on my own. And I knew in that moment that this is not the environment that I want to be in. I need to take care of myself. So with that, I had the courage and strength to fully step back because I needed to take care of my mental health first. That's why it's so important to me to talk about this topic, because how can I perform? How can I show up there for other people if my cup is not even full? That's something that's a lesson that I learned. So if anybody is going through something, it is so important to check in on somebody, because we can only handle so much. Like I can only handle so much.
Absolutely.
Mental health is so important. And I think what people are lacking, like the workplace, is it actually incorporate mental health stuff. Somebody checking in on them. It's so important, and it's gonna skyrocket the employees is gonna perform a lot better.
Without
Just like
doubt.
when I was in the field of leadership, if I'm taken care of, I'm supported, they have given me that break, which they did. It's just an environment that I didn't want to be in, because I didn't feel as if my feelings were validated. And I just lost 2 people in my life.
Right.
It's not something that is like a chicken, or like it's not anything light.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, a couple of things.
Then I have so much more compassion to people.
For sure. And a couple of things there. First of all, we're so sorry for your loss. Like so many that lost people during that pandemic. It's just awful. But what I really like that you said there is that you have to recognize that your health comes first. Taking care of yourself comes first. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are terrified to do that because like right away, the first thing that comes to my mind is I think it's Naomi Osaka, the tennis player that like said, I'm withdrawing from this because I can't deal with it right now. I need to focus on me. And just the hate that was directed towards her. Like, who does she think she is? She gets paid all these millions of dollars and she's just going to drop out and kind of a thing. So I think that has a lot of people scared to say, I need to focus on me. I need to because they're terrified at what type of backlash they're going to get if they say, I'm not doing well. I need to focus on me. And am I going to lose my job? Are people going to hate me if I don't show up, kind of a thing? And it keeps them from coming forward and saying that, right?
Absolutely. And I understand the people who are so scared to lose their job about this, by the way. I have so much more compassion to that. I was in a place where I really couldn't, and I just really had to take a leap. I need to step back from everything. Mm-hmm. And I took a leap to fly to Mexico, and I took a leap to move to Mexico at that time. I said, I have got nothing to lose. And I just lost my 10-year relationship at that time as well.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
While my mom was fighting for her life that we almost lost her to. So all in that timeline, you could only imagine what I was going through. I had to take a leap, and I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I am ready to take a leap and face my life and face my healing. Oh my gosh, my business skyrocketed. I was working for only 5 hours a week, and I moved to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, in Tulum. I doubled my income. I met so many freaking people. It's insane how many people I've met. And from there, I just started manifesting so much, because I cleared the blockages within me energetically. I manifested a trip to London for a month. I was pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty much everywhere, just traveling to Miami, to Palm Beach. Like if you guys are looking at my Instagram, it's mostly travel. And those are things that opened up to me, because I wasn't afraid. It was okay, I need to make money right now, or I need to take care of my mental health. I did. It was a risk I was willing to take, because I was willing to step back and face that maybe I won't make money for the next X amount of month, but that's okay. I've got nothing to lose at this point. I've pretty much lost everything at that point.
Right.
And I did take a leap. And I have compassion too for the people that are working in the working field who have responsibilities to take care of. So I wouldn't suggest what I have done, like really suggest what feels right in your heart, follow your gut. If you need to just have a weekend off, if you just need to use that vacation days to really just step back and be in solitude, to self-reflect, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Even take a hike. Nature is very, very healing for you.
Oh, it really is, because anytime I'm feeling down or like just had a bad day at work, we have a nice little trail that's back behind our office where like it's like 5 miles. And if you do that whole thing, by the time I come back, I'm like, wow, I really feel refreshed and motivated, because it gives
Yeah.
me time to unplug from electronics and to just start thinking about different things. I'll think about all aspects of my life on this hour and a half freaking hike, and that I'm just like, okay, now I'm ready to put that into action and continue producing results because I want to, not because I feel like I have to. That's the biggest thing, so that you can feel like, you're happy with what you're doing. Don't feel like you have to be doing what you're doing. And I think that is very important, because once you feel like you have to do something, that's when the anxiety, that's when the pressure, that's when all
Yeah,
of this
absolutely.
different stuff starts weighing on you, and then that's when you're not able to fulfill your destination, I guess, to get to your destination. So it's very interesting.
It is. And, taking that time off and stepping away and
Yeah.
coming back refreshed and coming back more motivated and stuff, it's so critical, because if you don't, and you continue to spiral downward, that's the culture you're now building in that environment. And the person next to you starts feeling that, and they start to spiral, and they start to get into that culture, and it just continues to steamroll to where everybody there is miserable. Everybody doesn't want to be there, and it becomes so unproductive. Like you said, you stepped away and you took a leap, and your productivity doubled, and
Only
everything was
working
great.
5 hours a day, you guys. I was only working 5 hours a day. I said, this is how my life's going to be. I was waking up at 6 o'clock, going walk to the beach, meditate. I
Yes.
hired a personal trainer. I made sure I'm fit. I started working at 12 o'clock. I would finish at 6 o'clock. And then at night, I made sure I socialize, because
Yeah.
it's a balance that I needed for me.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
everything's personalized. So I just had to listen to my gut.
Right. And
And
if everybody would do that, and then they come back into the environment and everybody's happy, everybody's refreshed, everybody's feeling good about themselves, then that's the culture you start building at work, and everybody wants to be there. And as
yeah.
opposed to another thing I want to talk about though is, there's been situations where I've seen a boss tear down a person in front of everybody to the point where they were in tears. Ripping them apart, that they're not good at anything. They're worthless. They can't do this right. They can't do that right. To the point where they're literally in tears, and it was being done in front of all of her peers. And I feel like that type of damage that you're inflicting on somebody can be so dangerous, because that goes outside of that environment. That now comes home. That comes to her family. That comes to her friends. And if somebody's already experiencing something, like you said, with the loss of somebody, or just whatever it may be, if they're already that borderline depression or that borderline anxiety, and they're attacked like that in front of their peers, and they feel like everybody's against them, that could be the turning point to disaster, where they feel their only way out is suicide, or they feel their only way out is something terrible, as opposed to, like you said earlier, hey, are you okay? Instead, it's you're worthless. Why are you even here? And you don't realize what that could be doing to somebody away from there, and how dangerous that is. And I feel like leadership is so important, because you have to be, I think there's this stigma that a leader has to be strong and firm, and it has to do, these things. But you also have to be compassionate and lead by example, and understand that everybody, as you said, are not robots. We're human. And I feel like you can be both. You can be stern and strict on this has to be done, but also be compassionate to what people are going through. And I feel like those are the best type of bosses. And I don't think we have those nearly enough in our society and culture today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I have two perspectives on this.
Sure.
And it kind of boiled down to one thing. And on a boss's perspective, it is totally not okay to yell at an employee and tell an employee that you're worthless in front of everybody.
Yes.
What a great leader would do is actually talk to that person privately instead of yelling at everybody, showing who the boss is. That's just not a good workplace environment. So in that sense, it's just not okay. And then on the other end, the person that's receiving the bullying, it is also horrible to experience such things like that. And at the same time, this is why I encourage healing for everybody. Healing for everybody, because when it comes down to it, when you heal, you will encounter people who are just not nice. But you have to be powerful enough to receive any type of communication. You have to be powerful enough to walk away from that environment, because if you are not powerful enough to walk away from that environment and allow that type of communication, to allow that type of yelling, allow that type of bullying, allow that type of, it's just the more you hear it and the more you believe it, you lose yourself. And this is where you actually don't have self-respect for yourself, as our topic. But when you heal, when you choose to heal, you start seeing your power. You are not going to allow any type of communication, because there's so many people that we're going to come across where people are going to talk to you in so many, and that are not nice, that are just not kind. Sometimes they don't even notice it because they're so used to it. But if you stand up for yourself, no matter where you're at, that's a lot of freaking self-respect that you have for yourself. And you probably don't even know that boss will shift the way that he treats his employees. And it's not just, it's okay to actually, for me, if I'm put in that situation, somebody is yelling at me, someone is talking to me not a nice way, even if you're a boss, I will come up to you privately and say that that's not something that I deserve. But owning that, because I do have self-respect, but it does take something to start respecting yourself by not being afraid and communicate that. A lot of people are so afraid these days because of what they're going to lose. And I have so much compassion for that, especially in the workplace, because that's one thing that you're latching onto. And at the same time, wouldn't you make a difference if you actually put aside your boss or your leader to say that it's actually not okay? This is how it made me feel.
Right.
You're actually making a difference to that boss. You're making a difference to, like, maybe no one else is doing it because they're so afraid of losing their job. But at the end of the day, you heal, you stand in your power, no matter what, any kind of communication you can handle.
It shows leadership, qualities in the person who brings it up, which in turn brings to my next point, which is like, if a leader is not leading by example, if they're telling people to do something that they don't necessarily do, it's really hard to try to, I guess, quote unquote, fall in line or, do the job you're wanting to do or there to do, because if my boss is not going to care about it, why should I care about it? Even when it comes to, like, say, audit's sake, like different district managers come out or different other bosses come out and, they're trying to make sure everything's good for this specific audit, but then when they're gone, they're not following those practices anymore. It's kind of one of those things where, like, we need to be good for this specific day, but every other day, you don't need to worry about that. So, I mean, it's something like, you have to set a precedent and then you have to stick to that. You can't be lackadaisical, because you have to, like I said, lead by example and, have your workplace environment be somewhere where you want to have everybody succeed. They want to succeed for themselves and for everybody else. Have that good sense of camaraderie to where everybody does want to perform to their peak capability. So I think that is very important, and I feel like not a lot of places, specifically in my other retail experience, they do not necessarily follow that type of, chain of command or like type of rule book, because things just kind of get lackadaisical and you're just like, why are you punishing me after this audit when the whole rest of the year we're not worried about this at all? So that makes no sense. And, I'm not going to care if you're not going to care, because it just makes, and then that in turn makes the whole environment to where nobody cares and where nobody wants to be there, so they're dreading going to work every day and just not wanting to perform.
Well, exactly, because you are the example that sets what the environment is as a leader, and if you're doing it improperly, nobody's going to want to do it. Exactly, but it goes back to what you just said about sometimes having the courage to stand up for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Because, like, and I have a story, and I don't necessarily recommend this to anybody, but
Okay.
so there was a time where there was a manager who was treating people horribly, and these people were terrified to lose their jobs, and it just kept happening and happening. And I've never been the person that's scared to lose anything. It's just like I'm just not that built that way, and there got to a point where I was like, these people are not going to stand up for themselves, so I am. And I just went
So beautiful.
off on my boss. I was like, who do you think you are? I don't talk to dogs the way you're talking to these human beings. Like, these are human beings, and for you to treat them like that is wrong. And you are a bad person for doing that. And I knew that may be it. I might be out of there. Yeah, I might be like out the door because I said these. And I'm being very nice in the way I'm saying this story. It wasn't so nice the way I went off on the boss. But
Yeah.
I had to do it because they were not going to. And the
Yeah.
only reason I share the story, and it actually happened twice that way, and then I had to do it again where I sent off an email that unfortunately went to everybody. I thought it was just going to my boss, but it went to corporate and all of the big bosses, and I was like, oops. But anyway, but my point is that the reason I'm sharing this is because it worked. It worked like what you said. Sometimes when you have the courage to stand up for yourself and call out somebody that's doing an injustice or doing something wrong, they'll see that they're doing something wrong. Because I think what you said was right. They've been maybe so molded into this person that they are that they don't even recognize that they are what they are and what they're doing to people. But when you call them out on it starkly, sometimes harshly, they go, well, shit, is that me? Am I doing that to people? And they change, right? Now, in my instance, one did. One apologized and became a completely different person and was amazing. The other one's like, I'm still better than you, fuck off. And like basically didn't change. And it's like, but you have to take that chance, because I tell people all the time, if you lay yourself down like a doormat, people will walk all over you. And you can't expect that not to happen if you don't stand up for yourself. So I want to talk about, because let's dive into what you do and your positivity and the way, because when you take that leap, and one of my favorite quotes is, leap and the net will appear, right? If you take the leap, what's the worst that can happen? You come back to the situation. I mean, that's the worst that can happen. So, but I want to talk about when you're in that environment and it is bad and you don't want to go, and the people around you and you're suffering in it, how do you reclaim your self-worth? How do you reclaim that self-respect and to know that you're valued? Because I feel like once that people start down that rabbit hole, they don't know how to get back. So many people can't climb out of that hole. So what would you, as a manifestation coach and as somebody with that helps people build confidence, what's the first step? How does someone that's in a bad situation due to a toxic work environment start to climb out of that hole?
Oh my gosh, I love this topic so much. I really do. Well, first off, I am sorry for the people that are actually going through this, and I have been through that. I'm a human being, so I will experience insecurities sometimes, and sometimes when we talk about self-respect, sometimes there's something higher that we're committed to. For example, like, okay, am I willing to lose my self-respect if I need to feed my family? Right? It weighs that. You have to weigh it sometimes. Or am I willing to self-respect because of love, and because you crave that one thing so much more than self-respect, you start to lose yourself. And I have been through this. That's why I can talk about it. I'm gonna try my best to really explain this. It's more of, when I was put in the situation where something weighs so much more than self-respect because I craved it so much. It was like it's okay for me to be in this situation. But that's the thing about self-respect. Once you let one thing slide, it becomes a domino effect. The next thing happens again, and the next thing happens again, the next thing happens again. Before you know it, you start to lose yourself, and when you look back, you'd be like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Right? And again, it's being able to, when you know that, because we try to control so much. We try to control, okay, one more. If I do this one more, maybe I could fix it. But there's just something, sometimes this is where you really need to step back and listen to your gut. What's best for you, no matter how it is, and being able to surrender and let go of that situation, no matter how much you want it. No matter how much you want it. It's being able to be like, okay, I surrender, universe, source, angels, God, however, whatever entity you want to call it, being able to truly surrender with your whole being that this is not working for me anymore, no matter how much I want it. I need to be able to step back and self-reflect, and being able to be okay to let go of control, to let the universe work for you, to allow the universe to bless you with something. And sometimes these are just lessons that we need to learn. What are you trying to teach me? Being able to ask different questions instead of like, why am I in this situation? It's our questions a lot of the times is the one that transforms us. And being able to, again, surrender. And once you truly surrender, you start seeing that like, wow, I did not love myself that much. Like I did not deserve that at all. And once you have that courage to step back, once you have that courage to see like how much you love yourself, because who is going to love you if you don't love yourself? If you don't love yourself, you're going to allow all these treatments because you crave that much. One leader said to me one time when I still wasn't in the place of healing, it says that sometimes we get into a relationship because we want love back. But what we actually don't know is we actually get into a relationship to give love. At that time, I didn't understand it. I was like, that's just so ridiculous. I'm gonna be in a relationship because I want love. But now I totally understand it. We don't go into a relationship because we want something from them. We get into a relationship because we give love. And that involves in so many areas in our lives, workplace, friendships, and everything. But that takes a lot of healing. And again, I'm going to boil it down again back to healing, because it does take courage. It does take courage to fully surrender, because we all, as human beings, we tend to control a lot of stuff because that's the only way we know how. Like I get to control this because we protect ourselves. But when we truly surrender, that's when magic happens.
Yeah, completely agree. And last week, I had a conversation with my mother on the podcast. So it's kind of like a subgenre thing that we're doing where it's like family sessions where we bring family members on to talk about mental health in different situations, because not a lot of people can talk to their family about their mental health or certain situations that may have caused trauma in one's life. So I thought that was very important. But you brought up a really good point about getting into relationships so that you could either feel love or give back love. My mother had a baby at 16 because she wanted to be a parent that her parents were not, where that she could put out that love that she was not receiving, and for in turn to have a child to love her back. So it's very important to just continue to check in with yourself, because I feel like we get so wrapped up in life and what is going on around us that we pay attention to all the outside stuff, but we do not pay attention to the inside stuff. And then that's where things start. It's like trickle down economics, where it just starts going downhill, and to where it's one of those things where you just have to be able to sit back, meditate, manifest what you want out of a certain situation, and to be able to just figure it all out, because not enough people talk to themselves, or at least internally talk to themselves. You don't have to physically do it, but you internally talk to yourself and literally think about, what do I want my next step to be? What is the thing that I feel like, think about it kind of like chess. What will this move do for my future, for my next step. All of these different things that I feel like not enough people do in turn to help them in the long run.
Well, and I found it very interesting, the terminology that you use, because it's really weird, and I don't think that a lot of people can understand it. But to gain control of your life, you have to relinquish control.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people can comprehend that. It's like, what do you mean give up control to gain control? But that's exactly what you have to do. You have to trust in the process that you are not in control. And another thing you said is that walls. I feel like so many times people throw up walls to protect themselves instead of communicating and getting it out there. And Logan, you just brought it up, and I think we hear it over and over again, and it's because it's valid and it's true, and more people need to understand. You have to look inward to be able to move forward outward. And if you're not looking in and taking care of yourself and understanding it, it's funny. You said, are you talking to yourself and not, but even if that is if you are literally walking around a room screaming at yourself and like getting it out and understanding that I need to take care of myself, then great. If that's your process, don't let anybody tell you you're crazy. You walk around your house and you scream and you do whatever you have to be able to get that out. And I like that you said that you have to do that for yourself. And because, especially when you said a lot of people won't do it because they're weighing and they're like, but I need the paycheck because I have a family and I can't do this, or I need,
it's understandable.
Exactly.
Really, I have compassion for that.
And but on the same side of that, it's like, what example are you setting for that family, for those children, by saying it's okay to be undervalued or to not respect yourself because of this or this? That's not the example I would ever want to send to my daughter. I want you to stand up for yourself and know that you are worth everything and that you should let no one tell you that you're not. And I'm not going to do anything to show you differently than that. If that means losing a job, if that means having to take a trip, if that means losing a friend, which clearly isn't a friend, whatever that may be, I want to set that example of I'm not going to sacrifice my own self-worth for someone else because I don't need that validation. Like you said, who's going to love you if you don't love yourself? You need to validate yourself. You don't need that validation from anybody else, right?
Yeah. And I do want to piggyback on what I had said. Like it's so easy for me to say you have to have self-worth and do this because I'm on the other end of the spectrum now, right? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, when that happens, we're human beings. We make mistakes because it's in our mistakes that's when we really learn and that's when we grow. And sometimes it is, as contradicting as this sounds, it is okay to also lose yourself.
Yes.
It's totally okay to lose yourself again. And what I would say to people that's listening to this is, once you lose yourself, you have to remember to go back. Have to remember to go back, because we're human beings. We tend to make mistakes. Just because I'm confidence and manifestation coach doesn't mean that I'm up here. I'm a human being. There's so many lessons still that I need to learn. And it is okay for me to lose myself again and maybe lose my self-respect again. But the power truly is when it's time to back off and truly surrender.
Right.
Because that's when you learn the most lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And wait, so let's mark that down. Confidence coach sometimes lacks confidence. Oh, like because you're normal, right? Because you're human. Like, yeah. And I love too, the other thing that really stuck out to me there is, and I think that everybody needs, because we talk about this all the time, is that you're always learning. You're always continuing to grow and see new things and learn new things. If you ever get to the point where you think that you don't have to, you're done. Because there's no such thing as you've learned everything you need to learn or know everything. There's no such thing. You're continuously learning new things all of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important for us to be really, really humble in our experience. I'm so humbled by this journey because I understand pain. I know what it's like to not be confident. I know what it's like to feel insecure. I know what it's like to control something because I want it that much. I know what it's like to hold on to something so much because I want it.
Right.
And it's so important to be humble. I don't want to be talking about like, well, I'm not that person. I'm not about that person. I have self-respect because I'm a human being. Sometimes I don't.
Mm.
It's important to step back and heal yourself, because once you heal yourself, that's when you start seeing that all the blessings come to you. This is when the manifestations come to you, whatever it is that you truly desire come to you, because you're in alignment to what your burning desire is.
Mm.
That's it's important to be humble, very, very humble on your journey.
Oh, yes.
I'm very humbled. I don't want to be able to say that I'm perfect. Actually, I'm so not perfect. I'm so flawed that actually that's what makes me human. And that's what I want to tell people. And that's what makes you confident. What makes you confident, being able to be so unapologetic to what you're insecure about, unapologetic to the things that you're not good at so you can improve.
Mm.
Exactly. And it's the same thing that you were talking about earlier when it's okay to lose it. It is also okay to fall out of line. You could be doing practices for, however long, and then you at some point just step out of bounds a little bit. And that's okay, because that's just life. It's an ever going process to try to make sure you're okay every single day. And that's why I find it important to just take it one day at a time and try to, it's good to look at the big picture, but it's also good to bring that back and to just focus on right now, like you said, being present in the moment, in the day, to where, what am I going to do right now to make sure I'm okay, to make sure I put out that positivity in a workplace environment and home life and anything that I have going on, to the point where I will just be okay. Because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. You should worry about yourself before worrying about others, so that once you're okay with yourself, then you can start helping out others. Because if you try to do that when you're not okay, then you end up putting yourself on the back burner, which in turn makes it a longer process for yourself.
Yeah. And I want to talk about the bosses and the leaders actually in the work field too, because like when you heal yourself, when you come back to yourself, sometimes it is so easy to talk shit about, I'm sorry about the S word. But
oh, no, you're all good on this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so easy to talk shit about your boss who's so mean, who's so that.
Oh, yeah.
But what if it's reverse? What if it's like, wow, my boss must be handling so much stress right now for him to go apeshit like this on all of us. It's important too to check in on your boss. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's important for all human beings, no matter what position you're at. It is so important not to just blame, but like actually checking in. Like maybe that boss is not doing okay. Maybe that boss is not even, he or she doesn't even want to admit that they're not doing okay, because they have to put up this facade that they're strong, that they need to manage hundreds of people. But you can only imagine what that person is handling.
Right.
So still have compassion to every human being.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the whole conversation, it felt like, okay, well, bosses are evil. They're doing all this bad stuff. But you're so right. Why is the person acting the way they are? If we expect them to be compassionate towards us, we in turn have to be compassionate towards them and understand, because in the end, I think the greatest thing a human being can do is be in service to others. When we figure it out, right, then it's our job to be in service for others to figure it out and say, this is what we can do. And I love that, because you're right. It's easy to talk shit about the boss. It's easy to talk about people that are mean to you, but why are they that way? And it's not so easy to do that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I feel like a lot of bosses will be very happy that you brought that up.
It just all boils down to we're all human being, and a lot of people won't, because people are unhealed, they won't to comprehend such things. Is very hard to, it's so easy to blame somebody. It's so easy to blame somebody outside of you, because you don't have to be responsible. It is freaking tough to be responsible for your own actions, because now you actually have to look within yourself of what you can do.
Exactly, because you don't want to. No one ever really wants to admit fault, but it takes a lot of a lot of vulnerability to admit you can do better. Even though you're internally thinking it all the time, but to admit that to the outside world is like one of the most important steps to try to figure it all out. But oh my goodness, like this thank you so much because this has been an amazing conversation. I'm so happy that we have gotten to do this because I feel like, it is in turn going to help a lot of people because there's a lot of people who are not going to work, are not excited about going to work and not thinking about all these different things. So we always say if this podcast can help one person at a time, that's all that matters. And I think this episode with you is definitely going to do wonders for everybody.
Absolutely. And I feel like, vulnerability is exposing your vulnerability makes you stronger. That's where it's at. And by becoming vulnerable, you become stronger. And I think these conversations are what we need. More conversation. We need to take the stigma away from people talking about, especially we talk about this all the time, being men. There's a stigma attached to a man has to be manly. He can't talk about things about being vulnerable or he's sentimental or he needs love or like there's this stigma attached to it. So by having these conversations and being able to be vulnerable and come out, I think it goes so far into showing everybody that everything is okay and that you're not trapped and you can always be somewhere where you want to be. You just have to take that chance and make that happen. And so thank you for coming on and being a part of the conversation and being a part of helping expose that to the world, because I think we need more of it and more people like yourself to do it.
Thank you. I'm so humbled. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Of course. Do you have any social media, anything to where people can follow you to get more,
Yes, I actually do. So I have, I forgot my social media.
Oh, no.
It's Hergie Estoque. So it's Hergie, E as in elephant, Stoque. So that is my social media handle.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, we'll direct everybody towards that way. And again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you,
and this is going to be a great one. We'll definitely keep in touch and have you back on.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was so great.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much because like I said, I just feel like your upbeat, positive attitude and your demeanor towards how you live your life and the way you approach things, even when you're having bad days, right? And I hope people do go and follow your account and we will kind of lead them that way because even when you're having a bad day, you find the good. You find something positive about it, and you show that on your social media. You're like, hey, today sucked, but this was really cool. And I feel like that's so necessary. Instead of just brooding on the bad, find that good that happened, and that's where you're. And you do a really good job of that. So I think
I am so honored. Thank you. Well, and I want you guys to know that I'm also dealing with stuff. I'm a human being.
Oh, without doubt. But you do it really well.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. I really freaking love this interview.
Well, we appreciate you, and for sure we'll be keeping in touch, and we can't thank you enough for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys. I hope you have a good day.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness. What a conversation. Because I mean, she completely flipped the script. Like we never really thought about the fact that, we always dwell in our own thoughts, our own emotions and try to figure that out. But to flip the script, be like, what's the boss going through? What's going on that side of the table?
Yeah.
So that's something that's very interesting to think about.
Well, and I'm so thankful that she did because in all honesty, pure like putting it out there, the entire time we were discussing this show and the entire time we were thinking about this topic, we were talking about bad work environments and things that we had gone through and this awful boss and that awful boss. Not once did we say, were they going through some shit?
Yeah.
What was going on that made them be this way? And, when she flipped it like that, I really started to think about, I had a couple of those bosses that I had in mind that were just real genuinely, awful that were good.
Yeah.
And something changed in them. Mm-hmm. And not one time did I think about what's going on. So thank you, Hergie, for even flipping that script and showing that we don't know everything. Mm-hmm. We are human. We have fault.
Exactly.
And to have somebody say, did you think about it this way?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what this podcast is about, to like bring up those different conversations that, you know, don't necessarily come to the forefront of your mind when you're going through things. So it was such an amazing conversation. I'm so excited for everybody to hear it. Be sure to follow her and follow us on social media. Everything's OKP, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the good places. And thank you so much, guys. I mean, this has been an amazing journey that we've been doing it so far. 9 episodes. That's crazy.
It's just, and like I said, it's the best free therapy ever.
It really is.
Just to be able to get things out and talk about it.
And different perspectives, because that's so important, because that helps us in the long run. And I mean, what also helps in the long run is to remind yourself, remember guys, everything's okay.